So I remember from your plumber story, you said the frozen ground is when you not pay attention. Mm-hmm. Not paying attention makes the social field frozen.
Right.
Paying attention is melting the ice.
Yes.
But it's still solid, right? And it feels like now, with the second level, the paying attention to your attention and beginning to shift for where your listening happens from the head to the heart.
Yes.
The heart as an organ of connection,
yes.
as a sensory organ.
Right.
That's, it's opening the ground. Now the field becomes open, and that's somehow what that Berlin experience felt like. You also talked about the collective. And when, you said you also need to pay attention to the collective. And when I heard that, I thought, and if the collective is attending,
yes.
then the whole other level of opening is happening.
Exactly.
Wasn't that somehow what we felt in Berlin? And the way it feels is that you become less attached to your own experience.
Exactly.
Right? So
exactly. And in fact, it's almost like all of these experiences in the room are your experience.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, there's almost like...
You discriminate less.
Yes. And there's not an other in the room. It's all of those experiences now become part of what you feel in your heart. And, I'm a lawyer. I was trained as somebody who argues, who draws logical conclusions, who, writes very trenchant arguments, right? And the idea that you would use something other than your brain to understand the world was completely a foreign concept, right? But when you can, it's not your brain at work here. It's not your brain. It is this other part of your knowing that is helping you see things. And when you are in a room full of people, it could be 3 people who are sensing in that way, it makes a huge difference in what happens in the space. And it's, you are seeing what is coming up and emerging. You are feeling where there could be a gateway to more human expression and connection. And you are actively moving that way in the same way that when you are a lawyer and you are, you're making that argument and you're seeing how to connect the different ideas into a logical flow. I'm saying this to say it's a science in a sense. It's not just something that might happen by chance. You can actually learn how to move things in that direction if you just drop down from here to here. If you just, I don't know if that makes sense, but
it makes absolute sense. And when you say it's a science, what that really means, I believe, is it comes with a method, right? So you can
precisely.
It would mean, if it's true, you can learn it.
That's right.
And I want to ask you about in a moment about your experience. So you had this experience. You're operating that way. But what experiences do you have to teach others, to help others to develop, to go through this shift and to develop that capacity? But before that, I want to share a story of one of the interviews I did for the Theory U research with Eleanor Roche, a cognitive psychologist from Berkeley. And I asked her, what is her account about when this shift happens that you talked about, what it actually is happen from a cognitive psychology point of view. And she said, perception begins to happen from the field. So when you operate from your brain, perception happens from here. And when that shift happens, perception begins to happen. So your listening begins to happen from the field.
Right.
And or from the whole,
right.
From the field or from the whole.
Right.
So that's kind of what she said. And I think that's what you have been talking about, and what you said in your story and your account is that the gateway for that shift is actually dropping down to
yes.
accessing this level
yes.
of intelligence.
Yes.
And that is opening up kind of this.
And so what it feels like physically is silence, right? It feels like a quietness, and it feels like you're both in the center of the room and in the corner of the room at the same time. And you are able to see, like physically, you're actually able to see all around you, and you're able to connect. You know, maybe it's an eye connection, maybe it's just a felt heart connection, but you're actually able to connect with different people. You know, I mean, that's how it felt in that room in Berlin, is that as you looked around, the people around you, anybody you looked at, anybody whose gaze you met, or anybody who you looked on, there was just this really deep sense of love and quiet and calm towards the people in the room. And so I think the skill that you are learning, the skill that I was learning, was first silence, just quieting the voices of judgment, of fear, of cynicism. Just shh, no, just quiet. And then because it is so quiet inside your head and inside your heart, you can hear things. You can hear things that you couldn't hear before, and you can see things that you don't see before. So it's really the first thing is like silence and stillness, and that is what helps you open your, I think, what helps you open your heart to what's in front of you. So I just want to say one other thing, which is I'm not a saint and I'm not a monk. I still have those voices in my head all the time. I mean, I can judge better than anybody. I mean, I'm the first one. I have a fabulous voice of cynicism. And I can actually, I'm really good with fear too, like all of them. And the difference, I think the skill set is knowing the difference between the voice in your head, that actually, oh yeah, that's the voice of fear. I'm scared. Or that's the voice of cynicism. Ooh, I don't want to fail. I don't want to be embarrassed. Or that's the voice of judgment. I'm jealous, right? So it's, rather than that person is because I think it. And so I think that's really important. I am still as petty and mean as I have always been. I stand by that. But I have a set of tools to be able to tell the difference between all the stuff in my head and the reality in front of me. So it makes me able to, you know, as I'm watching this movie in my head of what I'm thinking about, I'm actually able to relate to the person as a human, rather than the collection of judgments or fears or cynical ideas I have about them.
But the collection is beautiful.
Oh, I love it. I'm not getting rid of the collection.